Welcome to this workshop organized by the Prefecture of Sentiments Foundation and the Paris Peace Forum. I'm very honored to be here surrounded by such extraordinary panelists this morning for us in Paris and afternoon elsewhere. But and as you may know, African countries share similar challenges in terms of prison overcrowding. And today we will discuss different experiences from African countries that successfully implemented reforms within the criminal justice sector towards prison decongestion. The Justice for All program was developed in Ghana by the state and the POS Foundation with the objective of actually, decongesting prisons and contributed to reduce remand population from 33% in 2007 to 12% today. And last year, it was selected by the Paris Peace Forum as a model to be replicated in other African countries. And this panel's objective is to learn from this program and how it can be scaled up to decongest African prisons that are overcrowded. The dynamic of this panel will be the following. We'll start with the first round of questions where each panelist will have 5 minutes to answer. And after that, if everything goes according to the plan, we'll have a few moments to answer questions from the audience. And then each panelist will have 3 minutes to present their conclusions and final reflections. So now let me start by presenting our panelists. First of all, with us is today Jonathan Osae. He's the founder and executive director of the Prefecture of Sentiments Foundation, a leading human rights, justice, policy, and humanitarian-based CSO in Ghana. With over 15 years experience in the CSO field, he has expertise on innovation in policy reform and criminal justice and human rights advocacy. He facilitates the state-led Justice for All program for pre-trial detainees that seeks prison decongestion, as we will see today. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
And with us, we also have Ogechi Ogu, who is the Deputy Director of Prisoners Rehabilitation and Welfare Action, PRAWA. Previously, she was the team lead of the Security and Justice Unit at PRAWA and managed several prison reform projects. She's currently managing several initiatives targeted at addressing issues of pretrial detention and decongestions of prisons in Nigeria. Hello, Ogechi. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hello, Lauren. Good to meet with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ogechi. And also with us is Lenson Jagi Jogu. He's a regional coordinator and program support manager at Legal Resources Foundation Trust, a governance NGO that seeks to promote access to justice for the indigent, vulnerable, and marginalized. During his 18-year tenure, he has worked in various children remand homes, prisons, police stations, and courts in Kenya. Lenson has also worked with grassroots social movements to increase their capacity and resilience in social, political, economic, and legal spaces. Good afternoon, Lenson, for you, right?
Yes, good afternoon to you, and it's a pleasure being around here. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Also with us is Temfu Mbu. He's the Equality, Justice, and Human Rights Program Officer for the Open Society Initiative for West Africa in Dakar, Senegal, where he focuses on advocacy and groundmaking. He works with the local and regional organizations to promote human rights, access to justice, citizenship, transitional justice, and international criminal justice. Previously, he served in various capacities at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in Banjul, Gambia. Good morning, afternoon, Tam.
Hi, good morning from Dakar, Lawrence. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to have you. And last but not least, Catherine Lawrence is with us. She's the Director of Governance and Conflict of the Governance and Conflict Divisions at GIC. She has over 20 years of experience in development cooperation working in Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East and North Africa region. Prior to joining the Governance and Conflict Division, Ms. Lance, worked for GIC in Palestine, and her fields of expertise are peace building, fragility, and governance. Good morning, Catherine. Good to have you with us today.
Thanks a lot, Laurence, and greetings from Paris. We actually have the privilege of being here in person, and it's so great to be with all of you.
Thank you, Catherine. So let's get started. And I would like to start with Jonathan. And could you please tell us, Jonathan, about how the Justice for All program has helped remand detainees in Ghana get a swifter trial, and how it had to go online last year amidst the COVID-19 crisis? And how did you manage to set up those mobile virtual special courts? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I would like to extend our greetings from Paris to all our audience and viewers. I would want to say that it's a privilege to find ourselves doing this work for the vulnerable and the poor in prisons. They are critical sector of every country or economy because they are vulnerable in nature. And in Ghana's sector, we have the POS Foundation working together with the state to roll out this Justice for All program. It began somewhere in 2007, where we realized that the prisons were seriously congested, and out of the congestion we're receiving at that particular time, majority were also inmates who were there on remand. If we say remand, they are people who are on pre-trial. They have not stand trial, but have been accused and been asked to go with a court warrant to stay in prison. And if you look at the Nsawam medium security prisons, which is the biggest prison in Ghana, even today that we've helped reduce the overcrowding, we still have an authorized capacity at Nsawam to be 850. Currently, it's hosting around 3,300 per statistics from Ghana Prison Service. So you can see that some years ago, then the overcrowding was very, very, very huge. That was where the state, together with civil society, came up with the Justice for All program. Basically, it is a mobile in-prison special court that adjudicates remand cases. You'll be surprised to know that the Justice for All has dealt with cases that have been persons that have been on remand for 10 years, 5 years, and Zoro Kuta has been on remand for over 20 years, for which the Justice for All program went to set up the court and released him while he was in prison. At the end of the day, we've been able to reduce the remand population together with the state with this under this initiative from 33% to 12% as we are currently celebrating the successes of the program. I must mention one thing. I must mention one critical thing the president said during the 10th anniversary of the Justice for All program. He said, this is one of the unique partnerships between the state and civil society POS Foundation. So in other jurisdictions, you see civil society being seen as antagonizing government. In our jurisdiction, it's one of the best practices where we can criticize government and put them on their toes, or the state where necessary. But it is of interest to also mention that we have formed alliance with government where necessary to push for the freedom of the poor and the vulnerable. I would want to add that those we are dealing in prison are about 80 and 98% poor. They are people who do not have the financial muscle to hire the services of a lawyer to get to speak for them when they are in custody. Most of them are on remand and have not been tried, so they are not supposed to be considered as criminals. Now COVID came in. The problem is, can we now go to the prisons and send the court to the doorstep of the Ghanaian, which was the mantra of the Justice for All, and provide them free legal services? No, So after halting the program for 1 year, the POS Foundation, together with the Judicial Service, who seems to be leading the process, mooted the Justice for All certain virtual court. Amazing to know that the Justice for All court virtual has sat in Akuse prisons, Koforidua prisons, and we are about in 2 weeks' time to sit on 98 cases from the Kumasi Central prisons. And in the last 2 weeks virtual court held, you all attest to the fact that those who witnessed it, somebody who had been discharged by the lower court since 2016, unfortunately, had the prosecutor, the police CID investigator sent him back to prison with what warrant we didn't know, and had been there from 2016 till date 2 weeks ago, where the virtual court sat and unconditionally discharged this person called Kwabena Hulati. So these are some of the successes that we've chopped, and we are trying to see how best we can share some of these successes and best practices with the AU and other African countries to push this agenda. Finally, to end with my submission, we must also say that we have contributed together with funding from GIZ and the Open Society Foundation, or Open Society Initiative for West Africa, pushed for donations of personal protective equipment to be made available to the prisons. And with our contribution and strict adherence to the protocols by prisons authorities, Ghana can boast of no COVID-19 case recorded in our traditional prisons, and something that we are proud of to be part of, and that we are congratulating all stakeholders for working meticulously to ensure reduction in remand population, giving access to justice, and bringing the court to the doorstep of the average Ghanaian now through technology, and helping curb COVID-19 not to enter into our prisons. Now, finally, with POS Foundation, we serve as facilitators of the Justice for All program, and we are serving as the legal team for the inmate. That is, our trained paralegals and able lawyers get into the prison, interview the inmates, prepare their application, then the court is set where the Judicial Service leads the process to get it done. It is our belief and my personal conviction that if you want to find solutions to Africans' problems, it is better to look within and find out other best practices that have been tested and approved in Africa to help other African countries who have similar challenges, to make sure that justice for all can be a model to decongest Africa's overcrowded prisons. Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity, as well as Paris Peace Forum selecting our project as one of the 10 projects to be celebrated globally. And thanks our donors and my office for the support they give us every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Very interesting project that you had, and actually really interesting to see that, you know, it allowed to, it was able, to go on even during COVID. So let's get to our next panelist. Ogechi, please, could you tell us, you know, I know that PRAWA promotes institutional reforms in Nigeria towards greater access to justice, rehabilitation, and social development of prisoners, ex-prisoners, torture victims, and youth at risk. And I understand PRAWA also, you know, seeks the emergence of a human and secure society that empowers people in order to prevent crime, violence, and torture. So could you please briefly tell us about the remand population situation in Nigeria and share with us your opinion on the Justice for All program? And do you think it might be replicable in your country? Go ahead, Ogechi.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish to quickly congratulate my brother, Jonathan, and the entire POS Foundation team for the great work they're doing. And I wish to state that pretrial detention has been a major challenge in the criminal justice system across, you know, countries in the globe and within the region. Now, today, as at 8th of November 2021, the prison population in Nigeria is 69,680 inmates. Then the awaiting trial is 50,223, while the convict is 19,457. So that gives you the picture of the challenge we are talking about. Pre-trial detention is a big issue. At times you see some specific custodial centers having up to 90% of persons, inmates awaiting trial. Now, I want to state, first of all, that it is a great job that POS is doing with J4A, and to let you know that it is something that is doable. It's something that Prawa has tried currently and in the past and can perfectly key into. Now, first of all, we had a J4A project that started in 2013 and ended around 2016. And that is the Speeding Up Criminal Justice project, supported by J4A, British Council, and the DFID. Now, the project actually, as early as that time, focused on utilization of technology. Exactly what we are looking at now. There are components. It had 6 components. We had the component around diligent prosecution of cases, diligent investigation of cases, and it involved tracking of cases. Then we had case management at the court level, and that involved checking cases of adjournment, tracing the reasons for adjournment, looking at who is responsible. Is it the court? Is it the defense counsel? Is it the prosecution? Then we had the component that is around provision of legal and other support services to inmates, especially indigent inmates. And that had its own case management. And we had 2 models that were piloted in the FCT and the Enugu State. The FCT pilot had that project situated at the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria. That is where it was hosted. That of Enugu was hosted with Prawa. And what was the target? It was like a clearinghouse. With technology, we made attempts at connecting indigent inmates with lawyers that provided them pro bono services. And not only that, we connected with the custodial center, the then Nigerian Prison Service, to take notes through case management, cases that had stayed up to 2 weeks with awaiting DPP's advice, and cases that have been stalled up to 3 years, and take actions on them. So that achieved a lot, within that period. Now, we had others to do with transportation of inmates, because we looked holistically at what the challenges are, and we are seeking solutions to all of this. Now, beyond that, we equally had other initiatives, with the coming of the COVID last year. You find out that what happens is, as you are dealing with people, inmates coming out, something needs to be done about inflow. What happens about inflow? What do you do? And technology was quite helpful within the period of the COVID, the peak of the COVID, because we had a legislation in Nigeria, the new Nigerian Correctional Service Act, which permitted, put together with the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which permitted the use of non-custodial measures. But as at the time we started the project, COVID came. Then technology was quite helpful, because we utilized technology to build the capacity of the requisite officers to supervise offenders in the communities. And for example, in the FCT alone, 23,000 offenders that would have gone into custodial center within that period were, saved from getting in there, and the custodial centers were saved from congestion within the period. Now, we did not stop at that. We had what we call virtual visits. We know that inmates meeting with families has a lot to do with furthering their cases, especially those of them that are in there that may have been granted bail, but nobody to, see to it that they are out of custody. And without connecting with families, it will become an issue. So we had what we call virtual visits. That made us provide the correctional service with the technological needs they require, equipment, in 17 custodial centers that have high population. It's spread across 7 states of the Federation so that people can connect with their families while in custody. Then we established in the example of what POS is doing. In one state, we piloted it in Abia State, having 25 courts, connect to custodial centers so that at least simple cases can be dealt with. And this is a process that just started this year with the support of OSIWA. We are working on that and progressing with that. Then there are a lot of other, other initiatives that Prawa is on with. Yes, especially we had our media briefs, our fact sheets on issues of decongestion, which we share electronically across, stakeholders. So there are a lot of engagements that are happening utilizing technology. And I know that it has been helpful. But one critical element is utilizing technology to equally deal with inflow into custodial centers so that we don't go dealing only with bringing people out, but dealing with having these people diverted before they get to custodial center. And that is where the non-custodial measures come into play.
Thank you very much, Ogechi. It was really interesting. Congratulations also to Jonathan for all this great work. And maybe I think you mentioned that you had some material that you prepared. Maybe you could put a link in the chat so that people might, get to this material and see all the other initiatives you've done. And now let me turn to Lenson. In Kenya, also the proportion of people waiting for their trial in prison used to be very high, but a few years ago, in partnership with the Kenyan Director of Public Prosecution, the Legal Resources Foundation adapted the Justice for All program under the name All for Justice, and it contributed to reducing prison population. So how did you manage to implement the program and then carry it out during the COVID crisis? And what advice would you give to other countries that might be interested in replicating it? Please, Lenson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Lawrence. Greetings, colleagues. First, I must say I'll pick it from where Jonathan left it and say that African problems can only be solved from answers that are solutions that have been tried and tested in Africa. And this is where I say thank you, a big thank you to POS and a big thank you to the Ghanaian people, because we learned about the justice for all from Ghana, courtesy of POS. And for us, then we renamed it or domesticated it to what we call All for Justice. For us, All for Justice meant all actors, all stakeholders, all court users, and every beneficiary of the justice system coming together to ensure we enhance access to justice. It is true that the population in Kenya was quite high. We were at 55,000 on average total population. But upon adoption of All for Justice and partly blessings from COVID-19, we've actually been able to reduce the population with up to down with 16%. Would you kindly ask people to mute? Thank you. So, and that population also, at the children's remand home, we were able to reduce the population of children who were in remand homes. Remand homes for us are detention facilities for children who are in conflict with the law, from what it was with up to, down with up to 56%. So that was great. So how did we implement the project after learning from Ghana? For us, we took a multifaceted approach. And this was in collaboration between Legal Resources Foundation, Director of Public Prosecution, the Judiciary of Kenya, the National Police, and other stakeholders within the criminal justice system. And here, first, LRF offered its paralegals, who were able to work in, and this was pre-COVID, to get into prisons identify needy cases that needed legal aid and assistance, and then they would be able to find solutions within the justice pipe as it requires. So why did I say it is multifaceted? When the paralegals pick cases, they would work, for example, with the police and ask at the police station level, point of arrest, does this case deserve to proceed further, or can we have a victim offender mediation? Two, if the case gets to the prosecution level, our prosecution normally are the one to make the decision to charge. It is not the police. The police only prefer charges, but then the director of public prosecution will make the determination of the decision to charge or not to charge. Now, at this particular level, two approaches are used which helped tackle the congestion level. One was the question of diversion. Does this person need really to go through the full criminal trial process? For example, this is a child who has been accused of stealing 2 mangoes from the neighbor's farm. Could we employ alternative justice system, the ADR, for example? This is a mental health person. Do we need to take them to courts and prisons, or do they need to go to a mental institution? This is a person who is using psychotropic drugs. Do they need to go through the criminal trial process, or do they need rehabilitation? And we saw a majority of this category of persons who could afford diversion really getting out of the system. The second approach that we employed was that of plea bargaining. And people who are willing to plea bargain would have the paralegals identify them in prisons. They would give them plea offer forms. They would take them, give them legal education to understand what is plea bargaining. And if they agree to go through with the plea bargaining, we'd give them the plea bargaining form, which they enter into, and then approach the, when I say DPP, it means Director of Public Prosecution, approach the DPP officer, who then comes and enters into a plea agreement with the accused person. That's so a considerable number of people are getting out of the system. Now, further to this, as a country, and Legal Resources was part of this, we developed what we are now calling active case management guidelines. Basically, these are guidelines that ensure every stakeholder and every actor within the criminal justice system, from the point of arrest, the police, the prosecution, the courts, supporting institutions like the probation department, children's department, understand how to manage cases in an expeditious manner. Now, these are the checklists. A good thing about the active case management is what we are calling the pre-trial conference. And the pre-trial conference is actually just before the takeoff of a case. If the DPP has made the decision to charge and the case is brought before court and a plea is taken and the accused takes a plea of not guilty, now the courts move to call all the stakeholders together, the defense counsel, the prosecution, and the rest. And they agree first, when are the dates we are going to take the cases? What do we require for the cases? Have you served the defense? Has the prosecution been served? Has the accused been served with the witness statements? And all those preliminaries, is actually more of a preliminary hearings, are done. That helped in that there is no adjournment. And the court is very clear that since we have agreed and everybody has been served, there will be no adjournment, not unless it is proven that it is because of something that cannot be avoided. For example, sickness of one, which has to be proved. So that really
Lenson, excuse me, could you just conclude, please? Because we want to have other rounds of questions. There are plenty of questions coming, but please conclude.
Okay. So yes, so when we came to active case management, that then saw a lot of adjournment being taken care of. The last thing probably I might mention, or second last, is the question of judicial reviews. The paralegals are able to identify cases that need a judicial review. What we have as an innovative is what you call conviction integrity committees by the paralegals. that the paralegals are able to identify cases that they feel had wrongful conviction, either for purposes of taking them up on appeal, or we just have the judges who have got the powers to review them, take them on. I think I'll get up to that particular level and then we can move on further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lenson. And now I will turn to Tem. You know, Open Society Initiative for West Africa supports the Justice for All program, and I'm very interested in hearing what led you to foster this initiative. I would also like to know to what extent you consider it might be possible and relevant to replicate it elsewhere in Africa or beyond, to decongest overcrowded prisons, and under what conditions? Please, Tem, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Laurence. And thanks to the POS Foundation for inviting us. Greetings to all the participants. Really, let me first of all take this moment to congratulate the POS Foundation for the successes they have chalked in Ghana with the Justice for All program, and of course, the kind of hope and relief that they're bringing to pre-trial detainees in Ghana. I also want to say that we're very proud of the support that the Open Society Foundations and OSIWA in particular. OSIWA is a grant-making outfit and is part of the Open Society Foundations. We're working in West Africa. We're really proud that our support has led to this kind of success. Let me also congratulate Prawa, who are a partner of OSIWA's, for the successes that they've also chalked in Nigeria. Now, Ogechi, Jonathan, and Lenson have so aptly described the challenges that criminal justice systems in Africa in general face. And we at OSIWA, we've devised a number of means to deal with some of the challenges that they've described. And we take a three-pronged approach to those challenges. The very first one is that we try to prevent poor and marginalized persons from unfairly coming into contact with the criminal justice system. And Ogechi mentioned some of the interventions in that respect. I don't want to go into details in some of that. Our second intervention, or the second part of our approach, seeks to make sure that when people do legitimately come into contact with the criminal justice system, that the benefit from a fair trial with respect of all due process rights. And of course, that includes the timeliness of the trial. The third approach that we employ is that when somebody goes through that process of a fair trial, is found guilty, convicted, and sentenced to a prison term, that their conditions of detention are humane and meet minimum human rights standards. Now, the Justice for All program is in sync with all of these three approaches. It seeks to alleviate the problem of prison overcrowding in Ghana by providing support for the trial of remand prisoners. So for us, it was a very easy sell when POS Foundation approached us for support, because we saw that this was going to the heart of some of the problems that we were trying to solve in the region. So we were very quick to come to support them, because we believe those interventions are extremely, extremely important. Now, this model that is piloted, that has been piloted by POS Foundation in Ghana, whether or not it's replicable. Now, I think the answer is already here. You've heard Lenson from Kenya saying how they learned from Ghana and started piloting the initiative in Kenya. You've also heard Ogechi saying the same thing about how they did it in Nigeria. But there are a number of elements that I need to point out if you want to make this model work in your context, we need to pay attention to a number of issues. Now, the very first one, Jonathan so aptly described, that it is a partnership between civil society organizations and government institutions. Now, it is a partnership, and a partnership needs to function within the purview of certain precepts. First of all, I think patient engagement from civil society organizations with authorities in the criminal justice chain to explain to them the merits of this model, to show them how this model is going to help advance their own objectives is extremely important. We need to explain how this model works. We need to explain the benefits that this model can procure. We need to be able to show what interest these stakeholders would derive from adopting this model. And it is only through this patient and fact-based engagement that we will be able to get the political buy-in and the will from those actors in the criminal justice chain, and of course, the Ministry of Justice. The administration of criminal justice is a prerogative of the state. And so you certainly cannot do without the political buy-in of the state. So the very first thing you need to do is make sure you get that buy-in, make sure you show them that their objectives can be achieved through this process. Secondly, I think the resources that go with the piloting of the model need to be there. I think POS Foundation was very, very tactful in the way they approached this. They had donor funding. They went with the model to the government, piloted it, showed them the benefits, and from there started expanding it. So you don't only need to show the benefits of the model in theory, but there has to be practice that backs it up, and that goes with resources. So civil society organizations need to be in a position to raise these funds from various sources in order to help them pilot the initiative and show governments that it actually works. I see you are eager to stop me, so let me stop there.
No, I'm sorry, I'm the bad guy here. You know, it's so interesting to hear you all, but you know, we still have to, you know, let everybody, and there are plenty of questions, and I see Mac is raising hands, but we have Catherine first. So please let me go to Catherine, and then we'll go to questions with great pleasure. So Catherine, GIZ is one of the biggest donor agencies in Africa for the promotion of human rights and the rule of law, and it has provided personal protective equipment for prisons, as was mentioned before. So what is your take on the Justice for All program and on the COVID intervention? Go ahead, Catherine, please.
Thanks so much. Almost difficult to answer these questions now after hearing all these really, really, really impressive interventions from all of you. Thanks so much for having this workshop and sharing experiences. And it's great to see how lively the chat is also going. I think there is a huge need of bringing these experiences and practices on the table and learn from each other. So of course, for us working on access to justice being a human rights issue of central priority of our portfolio is something that we found really matching what POS Foundation is doing. So we were keen and eager, of course, to work with POS in Ghana, and we're really happy about the results. And we're also working in Zambia and Zimbabwe. We're working in Bangladesh, for example, and Tunisia on similar issues. We're working on, of course, improving the situations of the judiciary system and, of course, also the situation in prisons. So for us, it's been a pleasure and, of course, a great honor to work with POS Foundation and also to learn from them how they approach these challenges. And I'd like to also underscore from our perspective something that has been said before. It is key here to work with both perspectives. The state has to have a buy-in. The state has the mandate to work on these issues, but it only functions well if you bring civil society actors in. So working on these constructive state-society relations in order to solve these problems jointly has been exemplified by POS Foundation, and it's definitely something where we as government-owned organization of the German government are actually keen to really promote these kind of approaches. And the third point really quickly, because I see also the chat and many questions coming in, I'd like to raise. I was really happy also to hear from Ogechi's intervention and also from Jonathan saying that COVID in a way has created opportunities to think beyond the approaches that we were having in this field and many other fields, and maybe come to terms and invent something new, like the virtual court sittings. And I'm curious to hear from all of you, will you take this into the future? Is this a larger benefit to continue, of course, once and if COVID situation changes? Because I know that, of course, in many fields of action, we talk about new gaps created by COVID. But I think it's also super important to take the opportunity and highlight opportunities that were seized due to new conditions, and maybe new inventions and new innovations that came through this period. So happy if you do another round, Laurence, maybe to ask also the other participants of this distinguished panel to talk a little bit about what comes next and how can you make use of opportunities created through COVID to further develop your approaches. One last point I saw in the chat, maybe just briefly. I think having at least already these 3 experiences here in the workshop, and maybe there's even more that probably can brought to the table of discussion. I think this idea of how to bring this to the AU level in terms of a more institutionalized approach seems something that seems extremely welcoming and extremely useful to further pursue. So just to highlight this point, from that perspective, because it is so relevant for so many countries that a regional approach to this seems very helpful to bring the issue even further. And thanks so much to all the participants for sharing their experiences.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And actually, the question you raised, like those great things that went through during COVID, and if it's going to be able to keep on going, that was a question I was very interested in asking too. So I'm really happy you did. But maybe let me start with the questions that came in the chat, and maybe in the wrap up, our friends can other panelists can answer that question. I think that would be a good way to close. So I saw a question from Adil Khan for Ogechi, and he says, could you please share some examples of the non-custodial related innovations? So please, Ogechi, could you step in?
Yeah, thank you. The non-custodial, in fact, the non-custodial initiative, the non-custodial measures has been captured in Nigerian laws. And you have different components of this. You have the community service, you have the parole, you have probation, you have restorative justice, and any other form of non-custodial measure. Now, the point about non-custodial measures and relating it to decongestion of custodial centers is the fact that it deals with the challenging issues of pretrial detention. That is to say that it's not all criminal matters that should get into custodial, that is, if we are suspects should get into custodial centers. So the initiative is all about, and what I tried to discuss is what happened during COVID. That during COVID, it came in very handy because we were starting a project supported by ROLAC and the EU around effective implementation of non-custodial measures. Then COVID came, and we found out that it was very important that non-custodial measures is utilized to divert people at a time when we considered inmates going into custody as, rendering those inside and those coming in vulnerable, to the pandemic. So what we did was to utilize the platform of virtual trainings to build capacity of officers of the Nigeria Correctional Service to enable them do the needful in terms of supervision of persons that have been sentenced to community service. And good enough, what the sensitization that happened within the period around the utilization of non-custodial measures with the judiciary, with the Ministry of Justice and other stakeholders played out in very, well, together with the media briefs that we were using, so that everybody became conscious of the challenges of the pandemic spreading and the need to find another way of diverting persons from custodial centers. So with that training and sensitization, the criminal justice system embraced this, and community service was given to almost everybody that went before any of the mobile courts that has been found guilty of not obeying the regulations, especially the restrictions that came with COVID-19. So by so doing, you find out that community service saved about, only in FCT, 23,000 people from going into custodial centers. I hope I answer his question.
I hope so. I would hope so. Yeah, I think we have a sign that it is so. So I will go to the next question that we received actually from Meg Sabinda. What initiatives are available for juveniles or children? I think we already had some examples, but I don't know who would like to, step in and say something about that specifically. I don't know if Lanson or you, Jonathan, do you want to add something on that? Lanson? No? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. There are different alternatives. One of the things that we did for us, we have got in the country what we call the Children's Service Week. Actually, this month, that is what we are doing. The Chief Justice has ordered all the courts in the country to leave all the matters and dedicate the whole week, 1 week in the month, to just dispense with any matter that involves a child, whether the child is the one in conflict with the law or the child is a witness. So that then these kids, since they are in their midterm break, you do not affect their learning process, but it also ensures that the cases are handled expeditiously. So the service week is actually planned a month before, so that you ensure that every child is able to come to court on that particular day, and priority is given to dispense on that matter. And that's why we have seen that the number of children cases in Kenya have really gone down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lanson. And now we have another question. What program, sorry, excuse me, I'm missing, no, that's the one. Is there a network that represents all regions of the African Union, including North and Central regions? And what does the official status of AU have for such initiatives? Do you want to go on that, Jonathan, with that question?
Yes, and thank you. We have the blocks, which is the African Union. We have the ECOWAS Union. Within these unions, there are different blocks or committees, and committees that handles different issues when it comes to the EU and the ECOWAS. What we have not seen over the years, but I stand to be corrected because I think them may be the best to know the kind of coalition or bodies that exist, because they are a donor agency looking at the entire West Africa bloc. So to the best of my knowledge, we do not have anybody treating criminal justice. I know there are association of chief justices within the region, but it's not vibrant as we may want to have proper engagement with such. So as we are having this platform, since that do not exist and we have similar problems and challenges within the respective nations, can there be an opportunity for us to bring civil society together, having a regional conference on criminal justice to be able to look at
Jonathan is muted. Jonathan is muted, so you can check.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Where was I?
Kindly pick it up from the conference with African civil society people, from that side.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So in brief, what I'm trying to say is that since we don't have any formalized bloc, entity or committee dealing with criminal justice in Ghana, particularly bringing stakeholders from the government side and civil society together, there will be the need, or it will be interesting to have a regional workshop, a regional conference, or a regional committee or body that will bring together critical stakeholders within the criminal justice sector from different countries to be able to look at, one, the challenges, two, the prospects, other best practices within Ghana that have been tested, and within Africa that has been tested and approved, to be able to have a consolidated effort to bring about relief or solutions to African criminal justice challenges that we face. At the end of the day, we are all looking for proper human rights promotion for our people, and then ensuring that the rule of law is paramount in every jurisdiction, be it for the poor or for the vulnerable. And that is where I think if other stakeholders are looking at us, if states, we are engaging state bodies, we should move for a regional conference or workshop to look at some of these things and be able to fashion our solution or African solution for it. We may even pick the solution from other jurisdictions, but we need to contextualize it to suit our African situation to be able to get maximum impact and results as is expected.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And I think Tem wants to add on that. Go ahead, Tem, please.
Yes, thank you, Lawrence. I just wish to bring to everybody's attention that there is a continental coalition that deals with the decriminalization of petty offenses that already exist on the African continent, and it brings together civil society organizations from across the region, West, Central, East, North, and Southern Africa. And this movement is specifically seeks to deal with the issue of inflows into the criminal justice system by taking away some of the incentives that police have in arresting people. And here we're dealing with the decriminalization of colonial era petty offenses laws. This coalition works with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Just last year, they got an advisory opinion from the African Court on Human and People's Rights saying that arrests for petty offenses and vagrancy laws were in violation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So I'm going to share in the chat a website about the coalition, and all those who are interested in joining this coalition to push for criminal justice reforms across the region, and specifically the decriminalization of petty offenses, can log on there and find more information about that coalition. Thank you, Lawrence.
Sure. Thank you, Tem. And I think Jonathan wants to add something on that. Please, Jonathan, really quickly.
I think since this has begun, and it's a good initiative, this is what we want to see, so that we don't work in silos. So can we also be looking at in future expanding this to cover the entire criminal justice sector, so that when we pick a subject like Tem is talking about, we can diligently deal with that particular subject, which is decriminalization of petty offenses, which I know Osiwa is working seriously with us and other organizations in Ghana. But we are looking also at using this platform to expand to the entire criminal justice system, to have a stakeholder engagement, so that we can pick the issue step by step and then be able to push the agenda forward. That is just a proposal. I think if those watching us, engaging states, engaging donors, can pick that conversation, it will go a long way to help our work holistically.
I'm so excited to hear all these great ideas. I think we're really, this workshop is really working, it's a workshop, we're getting somewhere. It's not just reflection, it's, ideas, that can actually be concrete. That would be so interesting. And I want to just give Mac a second, because the hand was raised a long time ago. So Mac, if you want to say a very quick question, and that would be the last one before we conclude. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate this moment for the wonderful workshop. Yes, I was really impressed of the speakers and all the presentations. Actually, I wanted to share that there was one of the speakers who was saying at times, when you bring these, especially juveniles to Buku, some of these, he gave an example of a mango, a child stealing a mango. So I'm saying, like now after COVID in Zimbabwe, we have had a lot of young people who are actually affected by mental issues. And this has actually led them to seek rehabilitation, such that some have been dragged to court. And it really needs a concerted effort. And also, as Africa, I think we need to relook at our constitutions to find out how do they protected. Because in Zimbabwe, for example, we take someone to prison. We call our prison corrections. We expect that a similar person has to change after prison, but sometimes it's opposite, which means we still need a lot of capacity building into our rehab or in our prison so that they are friendly. For example, I know I've had an opportunity of understanding.
Mike, we are having trouble hearing you. It goes on and off.
Yeah, so actually what I'm trying to put across to the board is to say we need maybe a system which is more friendly when it comes to criminal justice. And also we need a lot of capacity building. For example, at community level, we should have paralegal structures that could look at some of the issues before they are brought to other levels of court. I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike, for this interesting comment. And actually, I think it would be a good time to wrap up because we're like on time. Well, we don't have much time left. Sorry. So could you, Jonathan, give us your conclusion very quickly, please?
Thank you very much.
Jonathan, kindly unmute. You are muted.
Thank you very much, host. I'm just simply saying that the thought suggests that we also have to, we've worked well and succeeded in our various countries, and the need has come for us to also push for a continental solution or regional-based solution. So I also share the view that, as somebody put it at the chat, can there be a national or regional criminal justice conference to look at some of the challenges periodically or annually? I think I would want to share with my colleagues if we can begin to have such a conversation to that breadth, because we are doing community service, we are doing non-custodial centers and regime. Nigeria is doing similar, Kenya is doing well. We linked the African Prisons Project from Kenya. We've implemented it here called the In-Prison Paralegal Program. They've also picked the Justice for All program. So Zimbabwe is doing the community service. We linked and did a lot of research, and the Wasiwa Funding Project did that. And Ghana's bill is currently before cabinet. So if you look at all this, we can learn from what has worked in other countries, what is about to work, so that we don't make those mistakes that probably others made. That is why there is a critical need to begin a conversation around this, not only justice for all to be replicated as a model across Africa, but at least we may see other models that may not have come to light, just like PPF have showcased justice for all, so that we can have collective effort to solve the problems for our persons or people who live within Africa, and then make it a better place for ourselves and for our generation to come.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And I think actually it can also go in a second time, over Africa. It's not just Africa. Some of the experiences you mentioned, I think might be useful elsewhere. So I just want to mention that because coming from Mexico, I learned a lot of interesting things and I see some similarities. So, but that would be another debate. Ogechi, if you have like a conclusion very fast, I would be very happy to hear it, and everybody else, I guess.
Yes. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for the opportunity. So I think I stand with Jonathan around issues of having a continental discussion conference around issues of criminal justice system and all the issues mentioned here. I agree that lessons shared, good practices shared, will make for a better criminal justice system. Now, what I want to say again is that I agree with the fact that we need a lot of capacity building, and that whatever initiative we are taking, that initiative must carry along all the agencies of the criminal justice system. We know that the civil society organizations are doing much, but we have found out also that as we are moving, we move with all the agencies of the government. In fact, like the little thing we are doing with OMCT, something simple, provision of disinfection chamber, you know, at Ikoyi prison. It's just changing a lot of things, making families, you know, issues of torture, psychological torture when somebody is in custody. This has solved it. And at the same time, you see that these people are able to easily access their legal representatives. So these are the things, you know, that can be discussed. The issue, the best practices shared among everyone. And you see us making the change we need. And I thank Tem for raising the issue of decriminalization of petty offenses, which Power is part of. And we know the lot of changes that has made, you know, within Nigeria. So the campaign continues. So let us join hands. Let the voice be one across the African continent for us to say, let the penal reform begin today. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Ogechi, for this, you know, like enthusiastic call, and that I think many of us agree here. But let me get to Lenson, please. Lenson, your conclusions.
Okay, thank you. Actually, did part of my conclusion on the charts, but let me contextualize it. It is important. As a country, Kenya, we have started since 2019 having annual criminal justice conference. And I just want to do the same rallying call as you are saying to the rest of the group that we need a continental conference. You can learn lessons from what you've been doing with a national conference in Kenya. And at this point, I want to challenge my brother Jonathan. Can you rally us? Can you rally us for the continental thing? In our own ways, we'll be able to come in and chip in a way that we can. But I would request that you rally us, because many times we will leave the webinar, the Zoom meeting, and then we will be saying, we talked about this, yeah. Or maybe we should have a series of meetings to just make it a reality and see how it happens. And the rest of my conclusion is, as you go back to what you're doing, just read what I posted about Road Oof. It will give you energy to make the things that you do even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenson. Oh, yeah, thank you very much. And please, you know, now I will turn to Tem, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Lawrence. Mine really is a clarion call to civil society organizations for us to be propositional, for us to engage with the authorities, bring solutions to the table. Let's not just be bystanders who criticize what is going wrong, but let's be solution-oriented in our approach. And COVID-19 provides an unprecedented opportunity for criminal justice advocates across the world to be propositional and actually make changes. Now, we've seen a lot of the things that we're advocating for in the past. Mass releases, they didn't work. They worked during COVID. Adoption of technology in the administration of criminal justice, it didn't work. Now, governments are beginning to listen. So let's take opportunity of this moment. Let's take opportunity of this opening and make sure that we are proposing solutions that are context appropriate for criminal justice reforms in Africa. Thank you also very much.
Thank you very much, Tam. And over to you, Catherine.
Yes, thanks so much. I'm really inspired by this debate and by the many ideas that came to the table. And for me, I think the main takeaway is, in order to improve the human rights situation in Africa, around the issue of criminal justice, access to justice, etc. I think it's really important to look at all these issues you put on the table to
Lawrence, we can hear Catherine. So if you can.
Yes. She's gonna be on in a few seconds. 1 second.
That's okay.
We're having some technical issues here, but
that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. We are cooperating here in Paris in a very pragmatic manner. So you probably noticed Jonathan was under my name, so I'm back now under my name. So thanks so much. Thanks for the initiative to having this workshop. I'm really inspired. And I think that I have so many takeaways from improving the human rights situation in Africa around the issue of judicial crimes and criminal justice. So I think we have to look at this holistically. It's about the length of pre-trial situations. It's about the conditions in prison. It's about the crimes that are being criminalized. And of course, it's about really looking at what types of crimes are we talking about. I saw the GBV comment on the chat. I think it's a great discussion. We have to bring it further and look again at this question of human rights promotion in this regard. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Catherine, for this final conclusion, which will be mine. I will just take it as mine because I think, you know, not everything has been said. Many more things would need to be said. But in order to keep the time, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Everybody who get connected, and also obviously my fellow panelists. So please and make it real. You know what Lenson said, I think it's very important to make it real, to make this workshop actually something concrete. And I think it's going to be the case. And I hope that maybe next year in the Paris Peace Forum, we can talk about that, you know, talk about the results of this workshop. That would be great. So thank you very much and have a very good afternoon. Bye-bye.